Welcome back, everyone, to another reaction video. Well, our friend BlueJay has done it again. He's got a new video that came out about a week ago. This one's called The Pettiest War in Scientific History, and I have absolutely no idea what he's referring to. I don't know what this is about. It's going to be a lot of fun to discover it. I'm definitely going to learn some things. I hope you will too. We'll share what we can as we go along and break it down and give some context and things where appropriate. I want to give a shout out and a thank you to Corey, who just signed up down in Gehenna outside of Columbus, Ohio, as one of our executive producer level patrons. We have updated the end screen, so all of our latest producers and executive producers should be showing up now as of today. Thank you so much for all of your support to everyone on Patreon and members through YouTube. I could not do this without you. Let's dive into this one. Oh, so we're in 6th century BC?
Husband, please, must you keep digging like this? This earth used to be underwater, Merope, and I'm gonna find the fossils to prove it. This is it. This is... What? Oh, sorry, wrong language. I've been asleep for so many eons, I've lost track of which Big Bang this is. Are you the regular monkey people or the weird ones with tentacle toes? Are you a god? Sure. Well...
If I've learned anything from Ghostbusters, it's when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Almighty and benevolent being, I beseech thee, help me find what shell fossils may be buried amongst this earth so that I may surpass my rival, proving my theory before that dreaded Xenophanes. Wow, passionate worship and heated rivalry? White girls will eat that shit up in a few thousand years. But crabs are lame. Dinosaurs are where the YouTube content's at. And funny enough, there just so happened to be quite the similar bitter feud between two paleontologists in the 1800s.
So what's crazy is if you... think about it, hundreds of years ago, I mean, for most of human history, we haven't really known about dinosaurs. It's a relatively recent thing that we have started discovering and learning and putting together the pieces about what they were.
A tale of connivery, bribery, and cutthroat rivalry, with both men scrambling to get the upper hand with increasingly underhanded methods. I don't understand any of these words you're speaking. That's fine, this is the internet, you're not here to learn. But anyway, how about we ditch the sandbox and take a proper field trip forward in time? You're capable of this? Sure, I can take it any time you like. The fall of Rome, that Jesus guy, your wife's third affair. Third? You're right, so many fun options. Let's keep things simple today and explore the wacky antics of the Bone Wars.
Bone Wars.
Wait, third? Welcome to the 1800s. Riding the wave of the Industrial Revolution, the 19th century was an exciting period defined by big booms that would shape the world's landscape forever. The gold rush shaped the face of the West, the Derringer shaped the face of Lincoln, and just as oil was seeing its own boom, so too did pre-oil skyrocket in demand.
Yeah, so oil really kind of sees its first boom. I know he's pointing at Texas, but Oil City, Pennsylvania, right up here around Titusville, which is just maybe 45 minutes east of me in northwestern Pennsylvania. That's kind of where it really gets going. Of course, then they find the big deposits under Texas. But, you know, it's amazing how different the world looks now than it did 150, 200 years ago. Things are happening so rapidly, sometimes it's hard to keep up.
Industrial Revolution? With that nerd Darwin finding time between putting kids in his cousin to spit out the theory of evolution, the field of paleontology erupted in popularity as researchers scrambled to dig up the bones necessary to substantiate his theory. Evolution.
And like a lot of people, I mean, Darwin was hardly the first one to suggest evolution. He just took, you know, kind of built on other people's research and theories over the years. But that's true with all of science and all of philosophy and all of medicine and all of history, is that we are all building on the work of other people throughout the centuries.
Lucian? Listen, you're more of a prop than an actual student, so let's keep the questions to a minimum, champ. Two of said bone erectors were New York native Othniel Charles Marsh and Philadelphia-born Edward Drinker Cope. Go Birds. While
Drinker?
both men
His
were up
middle name was Drinker? That's amazing.
becoming big shots in the big bone world, they did come from quite the different backgrounds. Cope, for his part, possessed everything one needs for a successful academic career. He had passion, talent, and most importantly,
Money.
a rich immediate family. Marsh, on the other hand, despite sharing the first two attributes, came from a poor farming family.
So this is, one of the realities, and we talk about this a lot with history, is that it's not necessarily enough to have talent or intelligence or charisma. There have been a lot of people throughout history who have possessed the right qualities, but maybe didn't have the right opportunity or the right set of circumstances. If Alexander Hamilton had lived in 1720 instead of 1780, he probably doesn't have the same opportunities for his intellect to get him places. If he doesn't meet people like Hercules Mulligan or George Washington, he doesn't get those opportunities. So, sometimes you just have to have all of it at the right time in the right place.
He had to pursue the second path to scientific stardom. A rich extended family. As 1864 rolled around, both of these studs met for the first time where all men with iconic mustaches like to hang out.
Civil War?
Berlin.
Oh,
In
Berlin.
the beginning, they hit it off pretty well and continued to keep in touch upon returning to the States, writing each other letters, talking about dinos, kicking their feet. A few years in, Cope made the first mistake by getting a little too excited and sending dig pics, taking Marsh out on a joint expedition to one of his excavation sites in New Jersey. Only problem was, not only did Marsh grow up around animals, but he learned from them too, as this greedy little piggy bribed the site manager to send all future fossils to him and him alone. You there, boy, here's $100. Wow, thank you, sir. What for? Keep it on the down low, but in return, whenever you lads whip out some solid bones, make sure I'm the first to see 'em. Our bones? Spot on, chap. Especially the big ones.
He's doing one of the things I love about BlueJay is that, and I know his humor's not for everyone and can tend to be on the inappropriate side, which I don't mind so much, but one of the things I love is he's taking these stories, he's given us the facts, he's given us the real information, but he's making it funny along the way too, so I appreciate that.
How about average? Fine, but the bigger the better. I prefer ones at least 30 feet from base to head. Sorry, sir, I don't think I have enough blood in my body for that. What? Oh, no, are you not the owner of the dig site? No, I'm Kyle. Excuse me, are you looking for the owner? Yes, I'm looking to make a deal for fossil exclusivity. Here's your money back, sir. No, keep it. I can do both. This moment could serve as the first shots fired in the now brewing Bone Wars, the greatest, most consequential conflict of the 1860s.
When you're ambitious and you're not the Civil War, of the 1860s. When you're ambitious and you are competing against other people, you look for any way to get an edge, and sometimes that means bribes, sometimes that means threats. I'm not condoning it, but let's recognize that for most of human history, this is how people have often achieved things.
The second greatest conflict of the 1860s. It was a conflict. This was a slight that Cope
We also had some wars in Europe as well, with Germany and Austria.
not forget, and tensions grew between the two friends turned heated rivals. Ugh, that's just like Xenophanes. Yeah, or whatever. Anyway, the two fossil hunters began exchanging blows, starting off rather mild at first, passive-aggressively naming new species after each other, like
really?
bitchy high school girls giving fake compliments. Some sources I've read argue this was done as a friendly gesture. However, I find that hard to believe when the animal Cope chose was a shitty little amphibian, and the one Marsh named came from the same dig site that he swindled out from under Cope. And also puts his name right next to anus. But that would only be a tiny sting compared to the sucker punch Cope received after he was sent some fossils that he would name Elasmosaurus platyurus. Platyurus. Elasmosaurus a Cretaceous period marine reptile that was 40 feet long from head to tail.
480
Or
gumballs.
maybe tail to head. Turns out Cope had mistakenly arranged the fossils with the skull on the tail end of his new dino, a mistake that Marsh immediately recognized and wasted no time rubbing in Cope's face. This is horrendous. Oh my. So, what other discoveries have you made, buddy?
And this has happened a lot through history too, with discoveries, and In hindsight, with additional knowledge and additional findings, we have a more accurate understanding of things. But at the time, sometimes people just were willing to make stuff up if it got them in the newspaper. I mean, we've built entire new species based on finding a single tooth at times, only to find out later that it was completely from something else.
That's all. This humiliation caused Cope to cope by running with his tail, or I guess head, between his legs to try and buy back every single copy of his flawed paper. But you know what they say, once you post something in academic journal compendia, it's there forever. And Cope's error would be remembered as his biggest mistake through the tail end of his career, regardless of all the effort he put into the memory's ejection. And hey, speaking of bones, you know what rhymes with ejection? Corrections were not exclusive to Cope, however, for throughout the duration of their rivalry, both men would have issues configuring their heads. Years later, Marsh would place the skull of a Brachiosaurus on the body of a Brontosaurus, which is honestly an understandable mistake, considering the only difference between the two is that one is doing the limbo while the other yearns to be vertical. Shortly after their expedition to the Wastelands, or as they said around this time, New Jersey, Marsh found himself with some growing prestige, landing himself a job as Yale University's first professor of paleontology, a position
I mean, at the time, you've got so few people who are in this field, right, that you're going to just by default get a pretty prestigious position when somebody starts. Yeah, that was a little alliteration, wasn't a pretty prestigious position. When there's so few people out there that are considered experts in the field, even if you aren't necessarily much of an expert.
Achievable through raw talent, hard work, and an uncle who builds an entire museum for the university on the condition that they give his nephew a job. Nepotism aside, things were starting to get dirty with our diggers, and both men decided to pump the gas on their attempts to one-up each other. Cope was a firm believer in the Pokemon strategy. Quantity over quality, publishing an ungodly 76 papers a year at his peak in an attempt to completely drown out his rival. Because it doesn't matter how good the final product is, the people are going to eat up these cute animal drawings anyway. Marsh, on the other hand, preferred a more cautious and calculated approach, reserving his papers for only the most prestigious of academic journals and mastering the art of manipulating the media's attention.
Well, here's the deal, though. I mean, one is trying to do it with the academic, kind of reaching out to the scientific community, peer review, all that kind of stuff. The other one is more gearing toward the popular imagination. And this is, a time in history like today where if you get out ahead and you get your information out there, people don't necessarily care if it's true or accurate. They just like what's sensational and interesting. And you can change public perception even if it's not true.
For example, in 1869, Marsh visited the site of a sensational archaeological find, the Cardiff Giant, a supposed petrified 10-foot-tall giant man that was dug up at a New York farm. Marsh took a gander, said, "Bro, that's a rock," and furiously beat the charlatan fossil finder in a fit of rage. This man of science just snapped like that? No. But if I say it confidently enough, everyone will believe me. Little YouTuber life hack for you. But he did accurately debunk one of history's most famous archaeological hoaxes, and the resulting pop culture attention plastered his name in newspapers from New York to Sacramento. If you're just gonna lie, you should keep your mouth shut. With the 70s around the corner, both Cope and Marsh trained their eyes westward towards a promising new opportunity, the frontier. Thousands of miles of wilderness, graveyards of bones, all of which yet unexplored by the likes of men. By the likes of what they considered men. Well, this seems like a darn tootin' great spot for some bones. Please, haven't you taken enough land? You're still not over that, fans. The two men raced to dig up and identify as many new specimens as possible. Although, we're talking about wealthy superstar paleontologists here. So
I'm guessing that throughout history, stuff like this has been discovered by people who either didn't care or didn't know what it was. And so once again, you have the right circumstances at the right time where scientific understanding is improving and people are starting to really scrutinize this stuff.
How much work they put in should really be taken with a grain of salt. New bones, sire. Holy shit, I'm goated. To get ahead in the publishing race, they would spam out telegrams faster than I can run a 40-yard dash. Which is
this is another aspect of all of this, right, is the mass communication. We're at the stage now, the 1870s, where not only do you have telegraph, which has been around for a while, but now you have transatlantic cables that have been established. And so in a matter of hours, you can communicate across the ocean.
really fast by the way, resulting in numerous mistakes and duplicate discoveries. In some instances, Marsh and Cope even knew their fossils were not unique, but tried to pass them off as so anyway, especially if it gave them the opportunity to one-up their rival. What? Well, my dinosaur was twice as big, could fly 30,000 feet, got pterodactyl every night, and could easily bench 450 without any creatine, like some dinosaurs.
Did you ever know anybody who was like that? Like if you ran a mile in 5 minutes and 20 seconds, they had run it in 5:10. You know, no matter what you said, they had done it just a little bit better. I went to school with a few people like that, that if you rode a 200-foot roller coaster, they rode a 250-foot roller coaster. And it just seemed like they always had to be just a little bit better. I've probably had moments like that in my life too, but I'm so glad that I don't care about that stuff anymore.
Towards the late 1870s, any pretense of cordiality was thrown to the curb. Cope, who had been known to be bubbly and outgoing, had started treating his guests with animosity at dig sites. Marsh, for his part, had become more paranoid and mischievous, establishing a convoluted series of code names to conduct his work. Cope was referred to as Jones, money was ammunition, how well a fossil find went was called health, and a handsome smart boy was called a BlueJay.
I knew that there was going to be a joke in there somewhere.
In their clumsy bum rush to outdo each other, they spun quite the taxonomic nightmare of a web, creating their own nomenclatures, refusing to acknowledge the others, and giving some species multiple names that would require generations of paleontologists to unravel. Like a 40-year-old Pokemon card scalper, both men had become more obsessed with collecting fossils than actually playing with them.
Imagine if instead they had decided to work together to advance the science and to complement one another. And, you know, people ask me all the time about other YouTube channels, other history YouTube channels, and whether, you know, I even have people refer to them as the competition. I'm like, no, there's no competition here. We all want the same thing. We all love history. We want it to be taught and taught correctly. We want people to learn, and we want to build a community. And so that's why, actually, you know, just while I've been shooting this video, I've been texting back and forth with a couple of other history YouTubers that I'm going to see this week in Gettysburg, and we're getting together so we can just kind of hang out and celebrate what we've been able to do together and work together. It's so much more enjoyable when we're on the same team and we all want the same thing.
So much so that many unidentified species were left locked up in boxes all the way up till their deaths. For in the end, all that mattered was having bones and making sure the other didn't. With dynamite, exploding fossil beds had become a viable strategy for the warring paleontologists, because once the fossil cart gets full, what else are you gonna do with the crumbs? Leave them for the next guy? But that's terrible. What about all the lost discoveries?
Jeez.
The evidence? How does this help advance the people's understanding at all?
It doesn't. That's not what it's about. It's about getting my name in the paper, right?
Oh, naive child. This whole rodeo isn't about the people. It's about prestige. And in a field known for the mantra, publish or perish, the pursuit of pettiness will often find one asking themselves, why not both? Now, to be fair, the use of explosives may have been more rumor than fact, but even still, relentless bone smashing and stashing had become the norm, lowering the bar even further below the very fossils they're fighting for. Alright, cart's full, nuke the rest of them. I don't think those are invented yet, but are you sure we should be doing this?
This is completely unrelated, but it's something that's been really bothering me, and it's a chance to talk about it. In the pursuit of money and selfishness right now, there's a thing going on where because of the value of silver, people are buying up medals from World War I that are made of silver that are unique and one of a kind because they have the names of the individual soldier and their service number inscribed on them. And so they're all very personalized and all very connected to an individual soldier. And people are buying them up and melting them down because the value of the silver melted down is worth more than the value of the metal. And it just drives me nuts to no end that people are doing that to make a few bucks.
I mean, this one kind of looks like a prophecy. That's just erosion. Now put it with the others and get to splodin'. Where there's sabotage, you
9/11
bet
and
there's
Titanic.
espionage. So like a YouTube video essay channel, Marsh turned to plagiarism for a dirty attempt to get ahead. Or at least, so he was accused of doing by friends of Cope, who claimed he had snuck into his rival's lecture on Permian reptiles to jot down the information and publish it before Cope had the chance to. Now, spying from an office can only get you so far, and if we learned anything from our friendly neighborhood Central Intelligence Agency, it's that the banana industry makes for great coup d'etats. Bananas? Sorry, wrong video. It's that you gotta put boots on the ground to get things done. So Marsh was known to infiltrate Cope's field expeditions with undercover spies. At the climax of the rivalry, Cope and Marsh were fighting over dig sites in Wyoming, getting so heated that the two paleontologist teams even got into a rock-flinging skirmish. But generational wealth can only get you so far in a multi-decade petty feud, and with Marsh pulling strings behind the scenes, Cope began to run dry in the old piggy bank department. Falling into financial ruin wasn't satisfying enough for Marsh, however. After all, it was them Pokemon cards we all care about. So the spiteful man tried to utilize his connections to strip Cope of his fossil collection, a plan that eventually backfired and saw Marsh's own career tumble down as his excessive research fund spending was put into question.
Good. I'm glad to see that both of these guys ran into trouble because they just couldn't set aside pettiness for the greater good.
Both men racing to rock bottom, their collections, incomes, and even homes were put in the crosshairs. Please, just mortgage it. You can't take my home. That's inhumane. While the rivalry discredited both men, defaced the good name of paleontology, and even pushed colleagues to quit the field out of embarrassment, it did also drive them to uncover an ungodly amount of fossils in their race for greatness. Some of the most iconic dinosaurs, from the Stegosaurus to the Triceratops, were discovered during this conflict. At the final count, Cope had discovered 56 new dinosaur species, while Marsh stood proud at a whopping 80. But one last battle was still to come. While the end of their days were mostly filled with back and forth mudslinging in newspapers.
Listen, I mean, there is benefit to competition, to healthy competition, because it pushes you to try and achieve something, and you pour resources and time and effort and really focus on. It can bring out great things if it's done in a healthy way.
Cope issued one pinnacle challenge to definitively prove which man was best. On his deathbed, he had his skull donated to science so that his brain could be measured, demanding Marsh do the same so that he could show, once and for all, that his brain was biggest. With the climactic battle set and everything on the line, all Marsh had to do was take up the challenge. Pass. And that, my dear friend, was the end of the Bone Wars. So, learn anything to help you beat your Greek rival, whatchamacallit, sucks on his knees? Xenophanes. And yes, I just need to tickle this magic stick, right? Wait! No, you can't die yet. We were just starting to hit it off. You? Say, what's your name anyway? Alexander. Tell my wife I love her. She's a little busy with affair number 8 right now, but I'll even know. Wait, 8? Good night, sweet prince. Well, that's a bummer, but it's alright. I'm sure I'll find you again in another life, dear Alex.
Where is this going? All right, as always, fantastic work by BlueJay. I learned a story I knew nothing about. If you know more about this story, add to the conversation. Let's talk about it in the discussion down below. And if you haven't already seen the video announcing my latest group tour, which is a tour of the Western Front in late October of this year, check out that video. I'm going to put it up here on the screen. Thanks for watching.